and welcome to Educationally Speaking. My name is Sarah Davis, and I'm a communications specialist with Oakland Schools and the host of this podcast. The goal of Educationally Speaking is to focus on important topics related to education here in Oakland County, Michigan. Thank you so much for listening in. Today we will be discussing managing the polarity of meeting students' emotional and academic needs during COVID-19. We know that school leaders are between a rock and a hard place when it comes to planning for the fall. They need to be thinking about students' social emotional health and learning. Both things must be attended to. Leaders can't pick one or the other. So the question is, how do school leaders manage this balancing act? Here to talk with us about this topic today are Jenelle Williams, Oakland Schools Leadership and School Improvement Literacy Consultant, and Marty Chaffee, Oakland Schools Administrator Leadership Consultant. Thanks to both of you for being here today.
Thanks for having us, Sarah.
We're looking forward to our time together.
So Marty and Jenelle, let's start off by having you explain what you mean by polarity.
Polarities are interdependent pairs that over time need each other. Each pole accurately describes something we need, yet neither side is complete without the other. They are items that require and instead of or thinking. A really simple polarity is inhaling and exhaling. The processes are interdependent and we need both of them to live.
Okay, so how is managing a polarity different from solving a problem?
Well, some issues do require either or versus thinking. Often they're problems that can be solved once and for all. For example, hunger is a problem that needs to be solved. Either I eat or I will continue to be hungry. If someone is in danger, you either help them or look away. Hopefully you choose this one wisely. And for a school-related problem, we might think about course schedules as a problem to solve. Polarities are messier systems. They require a different way of thinking. We can't just solve them like we do with problems. The very first step to dealing with a polarity is to see it as just that, a polarity, instead of as a problem to be solved. We see a polarity by asking ourselves the following questions. First, is it ongoing? Second, are the alternatives interdependent? Third, over time, are both poles or solutions needed? And finally, if we focus only on one upside, will we eventually undermine our goal?
Okay, so what are some specific examples of how polarities might relate to our current situation with COVID?
Some examples of current polarities leaders are navigating right now are as follows. In-person and online learning. Leaders need to use both avenues, as some families will be most comfortable keeping their kids at home. These poles will be interdependent as well, as there may be district staff engaged in leading both in-person and online learning. If leaders only focus on one or the other, they could be in a tough spot as well if schools become closed again for periods of time. Another one might be staff well-being and student learning. Leaders are also navigating having medically vulnerable teachers and needing to provide rigorous learning for all students. Teachers need to be healthy and at their best to teach their children, and the children need to be healthy to ensure all can be present in school. And of course, as we discussed previously, leaders are having to find ways to attend to student well-being and trauma, as well as move learning forward.
As we have journeyed through the past few months, Jenelle and I have spoken to many educators. We have heard leaders and school personnel share some very sad stories, causing them to want to focus on meeting the social emotional needs of their students. Here's a sampling of the things we've heard. My district's leaders say we need to do SEL activities. This was in response to a high school student who in isolation chose to take his life. I just learned that one of my students' parents died from COVID-19. How can I expect that kid to be ready to learn right now? Or I have parents who are unsure how they will pay their rent. I'm expected to make sure they are seeing that their children are finishing their online or paper packet of assignments. Recently, I was told that Child Protective Services has seen a steep drop in referrals. Initially, I thought that was great news until I was told it was because the people who normally make the referrals, educators, are not in face-to-face contact with the students.
We've also heard administrators and teachers focused on how to meet the educational needs of their students. At the very least, students have had 3 months of their education interrupted. At the most, by fall, it will be even greater. Some of the things we're hearing are, my superintendent wants the teachers to identify the power standards for the upcoming school year. And we need to think about assessments so we can identify which kids need intervention this fall. So let's put it to the test. Referring back to the questions we shared to see a polarity. Question 1, is it ongoing? Sure, this is not a new problem. As educators, we have always struggled to meet the social emotional needs of students or build relationships along with meeting their academic needs, helping them be successful learners. Question 2, are the alternatives interdependent? Absolutely. Students that are experiencing or have experienced trauma experience physical and cognitive effects that have a direct impact on their learning. And experiencing success or proficiency in learning has effects on students' sense of self-efficacy and well-being. Question 3, over time, are both poles or solutions needed? The old adage, they don't care what you know until they know that you care, comes to mind here. Educators know they have to pay attention to both poles. We can be a mean teacher and students, or we can be an enabling teacher. Either choice leads to inefficient and ineffective teaching and learning. Question 4, if we focus only on one upside, will we eventually undermine our goal? Yes, building learning communities and approaches that support social emotional health, but not attending to learning, will end up being frustrating for students and teachers. Kids have a natural curiosity that needs to be attended to, and only focusing on academics will result in even wider inequities. So using this 4-question criteria, we realize this really is a polarity to be managed, not a problem to be solved.
Wow, lots of really good information there. So how can we manage a polarity, and why should we even do this?
Just seeing something as a polarity is progress. Whether it is a school group that engages in exploring polarities or individual teachers or leaders, there will be a benefit. When we manage a polarity, we can reclaim all the energy that's wasted on arguments, resistance, policy swings, and so on. If we learn to start with 3 steps that organize our collective wisdom, instead of solving a problem, which often ends up with winners and losers, we need to see the polarity. That's step 1, which we've already discussed. Let's explore that a little though. How does seeing a polarity save energy and keep us from having winners and losers? So let's say a school is treating students' academic achievement as a problem to be solved, and they decide to put groups of students in intervention classes on day 1 of instruction. By approaching this as a problem to be solved, the school is neglecting the issue of students' social and emotional health. Instead of starting the year with peers and having the chance to rebuild community and relationships, these students receive the message that they are different from and perhaps less than their peers.
Or if we treat the social emotional needs of the students as a problem by spending a large part of our time counseling and rebuilding community, we lose the opportunity to help students continue to develop their academic proficiency.
So step 1 is seeing it. Step 2 is we need to map the results of focusing on each pole. And step 3, leverage the energy of both sides. We'll end up with an articulated plan that moves us toward a greater purpose, meeting the needs of the whole child. Mapping and leveraging a polarity involves several steps that we don't have time to talk about today. but there are several helpful resources to get people started.
Right. I mean, it seems like, a fairly complicated subject, but one that's very important. So how can school leaders and teachers learn more about polarity management and about meeting students' academic needs and meeting their social emotional needs?
Well, a great text resource for educators is Jane Keis's book, Unleashing the Positive Power of Differences, Polarity Thinking in Our Schools. Individuals might also search the internet for resources by Barry Johnson, the lead thinker on polarity management. And of course, individuals can contact either of us at Oakland Schools.
Okay, great. And I'll put all of that information in our show notes as well as your contact info so that people, can connect with you if they need to. Students are going to have a variety of unique social emotional needs this school year because of the pandemic, and understanding how school leaders can effectively deal with this is crucial. So thank you so much, Marty and Jenelle, for talking with me about this important subject today.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Thanks.
Not a problem. This podcast was brought to you by Oakland Schools Intermediate School District's Communication Services and is produced by Media Production and Distance Learning Manager Mark Hansen. Oakland Schools is a regional service agency that offers support services to school personnel which are better delivered regionally and provide cost, size, and quality advantages to those we serve. You can find more information on Oakland Schools at oakland.k12.mi.us. I have been your host for this podcast, Sarah Davis, and you can find this and future episodes of Educationally Speaking on Anchor FM. We hope you will join us for our next episode, where we will continue to bring you topics that affect every student, every day.